the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100. Now we're going to be talking about SPY, the S&P, Qs, everything in between. But we have to start with futures, and then we'll move slowly into equities that we like. And if you want to just skip right to that content and just go to the end of the video, that might be your favorite part. We go over equities and things that we're liking in stocks specifically. Now going into this week, I'm going to tell you right now, this week was incredibly bullish. This behavior here, I'm going to go into exactly why, but I think this was incredibly bullish behavior. Next week is going to be a holiday week, Thanksgiving. It's going to, I expect very, very low volume. Okay, that's one thing we need to be looking for. But we do have NVIDIA earnings, and that will kind of set the tone going into the first week of December. That will have the cloud earnings, CRM, and CrowdStrike. Okay, and then most likely PCE, CPI coming back up, and all those things before we get the last rate decision of the year. So those are things to be looking at, right? Things to be looking forward to. Now let's talk really quickly about what's happening. Now I want to show you two things. This is right, this week. Now if we rewind to something like last week, okay, you go from basically last Friday into Tuesday. We kind of flatline, break above again. Now the week before last, going into last week, right? This was the interesting move. We had this massive level here at 15.4 that we needed to get above, right? And we sat here for essentially November 7th all the way into the 10th. If you rewind, you can go look at the tape. You can see we rejected once and twice here, going all the way back to September. This was a massive resistance. We couldn't get above it, okay? Now, obviously, we ended up pushing through. The rest is history. We're moving up. Now, despite some of the news we had on this week, despite, overall bearish news kind of coming out kind of across the board, we hold up continually. And we're just sitting at basically 15.8, 15.9 ranging here. I posted this on Twitter, so you make sure you check it out so you can see all the charts, everything like that. I will also be doing chart requests tonight, so if there's any stock you want me to cover, make sure you're on there, because once that goes live, I'll most likely do all those late tonight, so they'll be all up by the morning. So that's what we're looking at there. Now, the S&P, we're looking at SPY. You're basically sitting between 451, the resistance, and then lows of like 448.5. Multiple days. Okay. Now, this to me is very interesting. The fact that you're consolidating at our resistance, at our highs. There's nothing really to say here except I believe that's bullish action. Going back to 437, 438, where we were at before, and then we mounted and pushed up, right? It's very clear, very easy to see. Qs and SPY paint the picture a lot simpler than I think Nasdaq does, okay? So you can see it going on there. Now, before I go into this next part, I ask you to do two things. Consider liking and subscribing. Helps out tons. Right now, the Discord link is, we have no spots available. Spots will be available this coming week, so make sure you're paying attention if you do want to catch a spot. But I always say a lot of our content is free, so you can go on Twitter, you can go on our website for the education, everything like that. All those links are going to be down below. But if you're also looking at this and you're wondering, how do we get our specific volume indicator down here from when we day trade to see buyers versus sellers, you go into SPY, you see what's happening here as well. When we go to something like, NQ, we can see all the volume levels, all of our key levels. That's coming back into our Dynamics Pro from Chart Prime as well, showing you all the massive levels where buyers, where sellers are, and that link is also down below. They're gonna have a big sell this week as well, so make sure you're using our link down below to get an additional 30% off on this week, but you have to use the link down below just to let you know. Now, let's jump back into this. So before we go quite into equities, I think it's important that we understand the fundamental tools that we have here at our disposal, right? DXY. We talked about this as well. We dropped through this, all of our massive levels. We rejected at 104.4. You're rejecting. The daily paints this even prettier, right? The daily 1, 2, 3 rejections coming back down to our Chart Prime level and the 200 SMA. Highly likely that's where we're going to. And I would expect some level of buyers to step in at that point, okay? After that, the yields, the 10-year. Everyone's talking about our bonds going to bounce and yields going to drop finally. Now, again, this is the level you're watching. Your 2022 highs, and you're inching closer towards it, the 10-year and the 30-year. Slow and steady. But again, once these start really dropping, it's going to happen pretty quick in comparison to what's happened lately. We saw the initial drop from CPI, some consolidation, and it looks like we're descending, like the descending triangle now, ready to break down once again. Again, makes logical sense how we're moving. And again, you're seeing the love happen on the other side of this with XLF and banks, right? XLF immediately getting lots of love, all this. TLT also bouncing as well. So again, the signs of what you'd look to be bullish against these things are definitely playing out even stronger. So that tells you the market feels very strongly about these things. Okay. Now this week, I didn't get into too many trades. We had Meta from last week, had CRM from last week. I ended up closing just about all of those. But I do want to reposition myself. The one trade that I did enter into was Amazon yesterday. Okay, I got Amazon 155s for June 21st. I'll go over those here in a second as well. They're already up over 10% right now. So what I want to do right now is, one, I'm looking for value. That's number one. Number two, I know when we get the breakout, I'll be able to trade Tesla. I'll be able to trade NVIDIA. I'll be able to trade Meta. All the big tech names, they're going to be easy to trade, right? Though they're going to break through, you'll get your immediate action. But things like Amazon and even to a certain extent Walmart, I think you might be getting great value. And that's not a pun, right? So let's look at Amazon really quick. When I go into Amazon, and this is our broker who we're sponsored with, everyone that, you know, anytime we're using a broker, it's going to be through Options AI because it explains things as easily as possible, commission free finally for you guys, everything in between, right? So we're going to go to Amazon, and that's what we're going to look at really quick. We're going to go to trade, go over to Amazon. As I come in here, I'm going to go down to the ones I wanted, and I went pretty far out, right? So I went for June 21st. Again, I want to have time in these contracts. I want to protect myself. And then the ones that I got were the 155s. I just liked how these were moving. I liked how where they were at. It made logical sense for me. Okay, so I want to make sure that's clear. I want to make sure you understand that. So hopefully that does. So we're gonna move up to 155s, and that's what we're looking at. So when I got these, they're around $1,000 flat. Now they're up roughly $150 each. So you're looking really good there. We like those, and you're inching closer. But when I go into what's happening with something like Amazon, you know, you had a really nice dip and you bounced one. But on top of this, it's the same thing with like Tesla. You're grossly illiquid in this range, right? It can cut through like butter. Where this reminds me of is coming back down to here. Remember when we mounted 113, 114? We mounted above, and then it just moved quick for like the next few weeks, right? So here, I expect it to move a little bit, not necessarily slow, but slow in comparison to something like Tesla or NVIDIA, but just to slowly trend in that specific direction. And we even saw it today. When we were getting pullbacks in the market, Amazon held up. And that's what I want to see when I'm going into some of these leaps or some of these longer dated positions. I do personally think Amazon could run towards 150, 155 in a hurry, and a little bit higher than that. That's being kind of conservative, so I do want that to be known, and that's my viewpoint there. Now, also, I'm kind of attacking things that are being influenced by this Walmart, right? So Walmart had earnings, and you know they revised outlook and things along those lines. They beat, but they kind of started dropping. Okay. Now Walmart's interesting. If you go to the daily chart, you've essentially held the 200 SMA for over a year now, basically, right? You're just holding above. And every time you got any type of dip close to the 200 SMA, it's been a great buying opportunity. On top of that, you got your best volume in like 2 years on Walmart as well on that downside day here. Okay. And then followed up today by another pretty decent showing of volume. Now, the volume is primarily sellers, but I'm going to tell you why it's interesting to me. So if we go to the 1 hour, you can see here, and again, all I'd be looking here, and you're going to see with this trade that it's very clear and defined risk. If I'm looking to buy down here, very simply put, my risk is clear. I'd probably put my stop a little bit lower, but what I'd be looking for is a close and hold below the 200 SMA. But ultimately, my target back to the upside, you can either go, 1 for 1, low risk to reward, just back into highs of 159. But in all actuality, I'm looking at least to get back into the range of 163, and in reality, coming back into 167. During any type of recession, any type of thing that's happening with the market as far as consumers hurting, Walmart's going to be the place where they all go. Like, we need to come to that assumption as well, right? When we were looking at what was a hedge against inflation, it was oil. But right now, if there's a company that's going to do well against a recessionary period, it's most likely going to be Walmart, where you're going to be taking a step back from your higher end grocery shopping to your lower end grocery shopping. That's just my personal opinion. What I'd be looking at, also, it's still the holiday season as well. So again, things that I like here, right? And again, I think Amazon was just impacted by this, but I think Amazon does more than just direct to consumer, right? They're heavy B2B as well, cloud. I don't need to go on a long tangent, but I'm loving Walmart as well. So when I go into Walmart, again, a few ways you can try to attack this also. Walmart, I don't have a position yet. I debated all day long about starting one. Again, I'd be looking for something like maybe even, there's two ways you can do this. Okay. Very simply put, right now, Walmart at 155. I would be going a little bit out of the money, like the 160s most likely, and they're really cheap for March. You can even go further out like June if that's what you want to do. The 155s, about $10. Still love them, okay? But there's two ways you can attack this. You can either go the stock route, or you can go the option route, which is what I'm showing you here. Now, what I like here for myself, I think this is what makes sense. You play the stock play here, and what I've done in the 30K account is we've basically played Apple since the dip, right? And we sold options against him multiple times and made money on the downside, and now we're making money back to the upside. So when I look at Walmart, what I like here, I think one, as a stock buy, for myself, it makes sense. I'm looking actively to buy stock once I get confirmation at this 200 SMA. Number two, I would like to sell an option against the 100 contracts that I buy. I'd be looking at something like March. And so all I'm looking to do is collect a premium, one, on that longer term position, because I am trying to hold this till expiration either way. And then once we get back into highs, start trimming that position pretty quick, right? So to the upside, if I got 100 shares, that's around $15,000, even if it's on margin on my account. So when I'm looking at that as well, you have about a 10% upside back to the top. And then as well, that $700, $600 you collect in premium as well. Now, worst case scenario, you sell it, kind of go down, you X out your shares, close out that position as well if you need to. That's what I mean, how I would attack it, especially if you hold this level. Because even when the market was pulling back, Walmart performed fantastic. I'm just saying, it's the reality of it. It's been performing so good over the past year. Pullbacks have been almost nothing in comparison to everything else. I'd be watching it. I'd be really viewing this thing. And I'm giving you an example of something else, something like Costco. You broke above, the clear resistance. You came back into it, and I think Costco wants to bounce as well. So those are two names. If you don't want to trade Walmart, you want to go something like Costco, you can do that as well. Very good looking names there also. Now, again, NVIDIA has earnings next week. I have nothing to say about it. I'm not going to trade NVIDIA through earnings. That's craziness. A lot of people are asking about Tesla. Tesla, you got your trade, guys. I don't know what else to say. We called it here. If you were here, you had the inverse head and shoulders. You broke up, filled the gap, came back down. What I'd be looking at here is you did come back into this key level. We mentioned this in Discord earlier today as well. You came right into your previous high here, and you bounced there perfectly right off that buyers did show up. That was a good showing. If you get back under 226, I'd be pretty bearish. Things I'd be looking at here for myself in particular. If I had to put any semiconductor, I think AMD provides some of the best opportunity. I mentioned it yesterday. I'm going to mention it again today. Now, you need to get above 122 for confirmation for further upside. And if that happens, you're going to make 52-week highs, in my opinion. But right now, as you can see, clearly making higher lows, very strong action, great looking name, would keep them at the top of your list as well. The last thing I'm going to mention is going to be LRCX, and I've been mentioning these guys a lot, but you're ready to break out. You're ready to push into all-time highs. In my opinion, again, that cup and handle formation, trying to break out here. Really nice, very strong, and once you get over 730, it's wraps. You're going to be pushing up. I can go on a long laundry list. A lot of these names look great. Meta, you're breaking out. This breakout was solid. I ended up closing some of my position, but I'm honestly ready to get back into this thing. You broke out, came back in, you're pushing back up. Great name there. CrowdStrike, also very nice. All the cloud names, I'm in love right now. You held your level here at 205, 206. Great there as well. CRM going into that name, 221. You're holding up. You're flatlining at highs. Again, consolidating at those highs. These are all great names. They're all performing really good. Again, you all know I think cloud's going to be going into earnings the week after Thanksgiving as well. So those are my favorite names where I'd be watching. If you want to look at cloud names and how they performed already, look at Datadog. You can look at Snow. You can look at a few of the other ones as well, right? I've tried to keep them all on a list, but again, kind of going to a blank right now. Like, subscribe, do what you got to do. Have a good one, traders.